Time now to take a look at what's making headlines in the French newspapers, and for that I'm joined by Caterina Vittosi. Hello again, Caterina. So we're starting off with Le Monde.
Yes, and if you're a fan of Le Monde, there's some good news for you today. According to the French President François Hollande, the worst of the Eurozone crisis is over. This is an interview that the French President gave to a handful of newspapers, including Le Monde, ahead of the EU summit in Brussels. As I've said, he's seen that headline. He says that the worst is behind us.
Does he mean for France or for Europe as a whole?
He means the whole of the Eurozone, actually. So it's quite a bold assertion by the French President. And inside, there's the question of how are you going to heal Europe, François? And he goes on to detail. He's calling for a balance. You know, this is something that he's been calling for a long time. It's that finding the balance between growth and austerity. He's saying he's going to really try and push for a first deal on a Eurozone banking union. He also talks a little bit about the possibility of a two-speed Europe. This would be a system he envisages where you'd have a stronger relationship between the stronger Eurozone countries, leaving some of the others on the sidelines until they're ready to kind of catch up and join in a banking and perhaps a political union with the stronger Eurozone nations. Le Figaro picks up on this same story, Europe talking ahead of the EU summit. However, a slightly different tack. This is talking a little bit more about the relationship between France and Germany, Hollande and Angela Merkel. The headline here, Hollande showing discord with the German Chancellor. Again, it's perhaps not a new idea, but it's really for the first time that he's sort of spoken about it quite so openly. Le Figaro, in their editorial piece, say it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation, because on one hand, you've got Germany who want to push for a budgetary control before a banking union. On the other hand, you have France, you know, yet the second most sort of dominant country perhaps in the Eurozone, who want a banking union before budgetary control. So chicken and egg in the sense of they could perhaps go around in circles with this debate for ages. In fact, they've only got 2 days at the EU summit, so let's perhaps hope they find some sort of resolution in that time.
Now, the question of Europe's future is dominating a lot of papers today.
Absolutely. I mean, this is really the big theme of the day we're seeing in the French newspapers. Le Croix, they talk again on this sort of idea of a two-speed Europe, one Europe, two budgets, they say. The angle they take slightly different from the one we see in Le Figaro. They talk about the sort of uncertainty and fear that this is actually going to generate for the countries who could be left on the sidelines. They ask, you know, what are going to be the ways of deciding who these countries are? When will this happen? Would it, in fact, make it slightly more disadvantageous? Would it make their future more uncertain? Libération, they go a little bit further, looking for the real sort of human element within this idea. They send reporters to southern Europe, to Portugal, Spain and Greece, and they go and they see families. Now, you see, this is a family here in Portugal, the Mendes family, and it's a really sad story about how they are struggling with the austerity measures put in place. On top of that, they're dealing with the fact that Portugal has the lowest minimum wage in Western Europe and increasing tax hikes. It's quite a emotive look at what the EU summit in Brussels is really going to mean for people who are living in these sorts of conditions.
Now, you're also looking at reactions in the press to François Hollande being the first French president to recognise what's often been referred as the forgotten massacre.
Yeah, and these are reactions in the press, but actually also reactions from right-leaning politicians in La Figaro. And it's quite an interesting look, because as you say, this is the first French president to kind of openly comment on the massacre of Algerian protesters back in 1961. Right politicians saying, what is François Hollande doing here? This is already a very sensitive issue, and by making such a high-profile statement like this, it's just going to divide France, it's going to divide politicians, it's going to divide the French people even more. However, socialists have already come back on this, saying, you're the one who's trying to take what was, you know, a well-meaning comment, try to political point score from it, so leave us alone. Our president's made the right call here.
All right, thank you very much, Caterina.